Welcome to the Deep Dive. We sift through sources to pull out those key insights, helping you get informed fast.
And today, we're looking at just one source, but it's a heavy one.
Yeah, really heavy. It's a transcript from a YouTube video about a truly shocking crime in Hong Kong from 2013.
A case that really gripped the city.
So our goal here is to unpack this story as the source tells it, get into the details, the people involved, the sequence of events. It's disturbing stuff, but maybe we can understand something from it.
It's definitely a grim story. It starts, as a missing persons case, but then spirals into something much, much worse. This transcript gives a pretty detailed account.
Okay, so let's start with the family at the heart of it, the Chow family. The parents, Cao Tai-chong and Su Yueti.
Right. And the source describes them as pretty successful real estate investors, been doing it since the 80s in Hong Kong.
And Hong Kong real estate, making serious money there, that says a lot. They were successful.
Absolutely. But the source kind of sets up this contrast, doesn't it? Between their success and the struggles of their younger son, Chow Hui-lung. People called him Henry.
There were two sons, right? The older one, Hui-ying, apparently, met expectations.
Yeah, but Henry, his path was different. The transcript paints him as, introverted from childhood, struggled socially.
Found his community more online, in games.
Seems like it. He apparently felt disconnected in real life. The source mentions his reasons were the different interests and feeling constantly pressured by his parents, nagging about studies.
The study pressure. That comes up a lot.
It does, and he struggled academically. Failed a really big exam, the HKCE.
That's a major one in Hong Kong secondary schools.
Huge. And the source says his parents were deeply disappointed. They thought he was smart, just lazy, basically, lacked discipline.
So they thought, okay, new environment. They sent him off to Australia when he was 17, around 2000.
Yeah, to study actuarial science at ANU, Australian National University, hoping maybe he'd mature, find his feet.
Did it work?
Doesn't sound like it, based on this transcript. Still had academic problems, and he claimed he was bullied. Mentioned racial abuse, even physical attacks.
Wow. So after about 3.5 years, he just
dropped out, came back to Hong Kong, no degree. That would be around 2003.
And back home, things didn't improve.
Apparently got worse, more withdrawn. The source mentions some unusual interests he developed, fascination with a certain WWII German leader and his political party.
Okay. Using the leader's image for wallpapers, social media profile pics, the source just notes this factually.
Right. And then work. Just couldn't hold down a job. His parents tried setting things up for him. University job, friend's company.
Fired quickly from that one, it says. Real estate news agency through his dad.
Yeah, but he'd quit. Didn't like bosses telling him what to do. And the source really emphasizes this pattern. He blamed his parents for all these failures. Never himself.
What about his personal life?
Also troubled, according to the transcript. Superficial relationships, apparently with several women from mainland China. And one really stark detail. Abandoned a girlfriend who got pregnant. Refused any responsibility.
So fast forward, he's nearly 30.
Yeah.
Still living at home.
Yep. Still largely dependent on his parents' money. Spending quite a bit too, it says.
And there was a bad investment. 2012.
Yeah. Used his savings, plus money from his parents. Huge amount. He apparently thought it was going to be life-changing, make him rich.
But it didn't.
Nope. Lost it all quickly.
So you can imagine the tension at home. Parents worried, disappointed, his future looking bleak.
And the source mentions Henry actually proposed selling the family apartment, splitting the money.
When they said no, things just kept getting worse. Still blaming them, never looking inward.
And this is where, according to Henry's later account in this source, his thoughts turned really dark. Suicidal thoughts, apparently.
But then it shifted.
It shifted. He started thinking about getting rid of the people he saw as the source of his problems, his parents.
Chilling.
Which brings us to March 2nd, 2013, the day his parents, Mr. Cao, 65, and Miss C, 62, disappeared.
Just vanished. No phone calls, no messages, gone.
The older brother, Hui-ying, gets worried, asks Henry. What did Henry say?
The first story, the lie, was that he overheard them talking about a trip to mainland China. Just assumed they'd gone.
And the brother believed him, initially?
Initially, yeah. Gave it a few days.
But then, 5 days later, March 7th, still no contact. So the older brother goes to the police, reports them missing.
And note this, Henry went with him to the police station.
Okay. What did Henry tell the police then?
His story was he'd had lunch with them March 2nd around 2 p.m. at a mall. Then they parted ways and he just assumed they went off to China.
Already a different story from just overhearing them. The source points this out.
Exactly, an inconsistency right at the start.
They also went public, right? The brothers. Facebook page.
Yeah, missing parents, shared photos, descriptions of what they were wearing, contact numbers, trying to get the word out.
And then Henry did that media interview, Apple Daily. He did. March 13th, 11 days after they disappeared. Appealing for help on camera.
But his demeanor, the source says people found it odd. Relaxed.
Surprisingly relaxed. He even joked, apparently. Maybe they're off eating mala hot pot, their favorite. Or hiking somewhere off-grid.
Joking, while his parents are missing.
Yeah. Then he ended it asking them to call home, saying everyone was worried. Knowing what we know now, that appearance is deeply unsettling.
Meanwhile, the police investigation is moving. March 12th, they check immigration records.
Crucial step. And they find nothing. No record of Mr. Cao or Miss Siu leaving Hong Kong.
Then they ask the sons to check the house. Passports.
Still there. Confirmed. They hadn't left the country. Couldn't have.
The elder son checked bank accounts too.
Right. No activity. So not a simple disappearance for money, not a kidnapping for ransom. It became a missing persons case, but under very suspicious circumstances.
And March 14th, police bring the brothers back in. More questions.
And during this intense interview, Henry's doing what?
Constantly typing on his phone.
Right. And what the source reveals is shattering. He was messaging friends on WhatsApp. Confessing, telling them he killed his parents, giving details about disposing of the body parts.
While sitting in the police station.
Sitting there. He told them he was at the station, planning to mislead the police for a bit longer. Buy time to say goodbye to friends, then tell the truth.
The messages. What else did they say?
Just awful stuff. Claimed he was a psychopath, felt no apathy, blamed his childhood, said he just didn't want his parents alive for some reason, mentioned a partner in crime, planning it, disposing of remains piece by piece.
And he didn't stop there. He met people later that day.
Yeah, the source says he met a cousin, a close friend, repeated the confession, recounted events, said he planned to surrender the next afternoon, needed to go home, sleep, clean up first.
Unbelievable. So how did the police find out about the WhatsApp messages?
One of the friends in that group chat, understandably disturbed, horrified, contacted the police, maybe hoping it was some kind of twisted cry for help, but couldn't risk it.
So the police act immediately. Early morning, March 15th, 7 a.m.
They go to Henry's home, arrest him. He's 29. He denies it at first.
But then confesses. Yeah.
But says he had help, an accomplice, points them to his friend, 35-year-old Angus C., gives them Angus's address.
So police raid Angus C's apartment around 10:30 that morning.
Yeah, Angus is there. They arrest him too.
And the scene inside, what do they find?
Horrific doesn't cover it. The smell, first off, blood, decay, blood-stained carpets, bags of sand and cement.
Tools.
Lots of tools. Chopping board, body bags, foam boxes, hundreds of them, a saw, knives, 3 black bags with limbs and remains.
In the refrigerators.
Yeah. In the storage room, 2 fridges, inside the freezers, the severed heads of his parents, Cao Tai Chong and Siu Wei.
Oh my God.
And then this detail. Boxes of cooked meat over rice. Stacked up. The source says it looked like char siu rice, Cantonese roast pork.
It wasn't pork.
Believed to be human remains, their parents' bodies. Residue in the microwave tested positive for human fat.
A slaughterhouse. That's what the police called it.
They also found a notebook in Henry's handwriting, detailing how to dismember a body.
So we have 2 suspects, Henry and Angus. And as the source lays out, 2 very different stories. Let's unpack Henry's account first.
Okay. Henry told police he met Angus back in 2007, became friends. He confided in Angus about his family problems, his suicidal thoughts.
And according to Henry, Angus said,
Henry claimed Angus told him not to kill himself, but to, quote, eliminate the source of the problem, meaning his parents. Henry claimed Angus persuaded him, agreed to help.
He also made other disturbing claims about future plans.
Yeah, really disturbing. Claimed they planned to go to mainland China after the murders to commit rape and serial killings of sex workers together.
Good grief. And the planning for the parents' murder, Henry's version.
He said he wanted to do it in Shenzhen, near the border. But Angus insisted on Dai Kok Jui, that old, dense area. Harder to look for wealthy victims there, Angus supposedly argued. They picked that specific old building.
And the premeditation evidence, the computer searches, very strong evidence against Henry, highlighted in the source. Searches from October 2012, months before. Missing persons. How to drain blood from a corpse.
Plus buying all those tools. The fridge, microwave, saw.
Clearly preparation. Over time.
So Henry's description of the act itself, March 1st, 2013, he lures them there. How?
Pretended he was renting a room in Angus's flat with roommates, trying to look mature, independent. They arrive around 12:30 p.m.
Which contradicts his earlier story about lunch on March 2nd.
Right, another lie. Henry claimed Angus attacked his mother first, covered her mouth, cut her throat, then Henry attacked his father, knife to the back of the neck.
The father struggled.
Yes, and Henry claimed Angus then helped him finish killing the father, cut his throat too. Henry said he got injured hand, thigh during this.
And the CCTV footage. It shows Henry leaving alone shortly after arriving with them.
About 20 minutes later, yeah. He went to the hospital for his injuries, then came back later.
And when he got back, what did Henry claim Angus was doing? Already dismembering the bodies. Showed Henry how to preserve parts with salt. Henry claimed Angus first planned to use concrete, but then decided to cook the flesh, like char siu, microwave, over days.
And disposal.
Some boxes thrown out, bones, organs dumped in the sea. That's Henry's story.
Okay. Now, Angus C., completely different version.
Totally different. Angus denied everything. No part in the murders, no part in the dismemberment.
He admitted lending Henry the apartment.
Admitted that, yes, but claimed he had no clue what Henry intended. Said he only came back to the apartment on March 4th. That's 3 days after the murders.
And what did he find, according to him?
Found Henry there, smiling, he said, menacingly. Showed him a box. His parents' hands and heads inside.
And then Henry threatened him.
Angus claimed Henry threatened to kill Angus's own mother if he didn't help clean up and get rid of the parts.
So Angus claims he only helped because he was terrified for his mother.
Exactly. Wiped things down, threw parts in the sea under Henry's orders out of fear, but didn't kill, didn't dismember. That's his story.
The source mentioned some background on Angus. Testimony from a friend.
Yeah, a friend of over 10 years. Described Angus as gentle, shy, trusting, maybe not very smart, easily taken advantage of, very devoted to his mother and sister, came from a close family.
Also struggled academically. Bullied as a kid.
Yes, similar background to Henry in some ways, but apparently never fought back. The friend felt Henry definitely controlled Angus.
And Angus had a past suicide attempt. Brain damage.
Survived ingesting poison after being swindled, yeah. Some reported brain damage resulted. Adds another layer to the potential for manipulation.
So how does the evidence stack up against these two stories?
Well, Henry's computer searches months beforehand point strongly to his planning. CCTV shows them buying tools with Henry seemingly in charge. Most forensic evidence, like fingerprints at the scene, pointed heavily towards Henry.
Whole logs.
About 70 calls and texts between them around the time. Suggests coordination likely initiated by Henry.
And the psychological evaluations. The IQ difference.
Significant. Henry at 126, above average. Angus at 84, below average. Police leaned heavily towards Henry manipulating Angus, leveraging that difference.
And Henry's diagnosis.
Narcissistic personality disorder. Severe antisocial traits. Selfish, no empathy, blames others. It fit the pattern described in the source perfectly.
So Henry's behavior, the lies, the public facade, the private confessions, shifting blame, it all points to him being the main perpetrator, the mastermind.
That was certainly the police theory, and the picture the evidence painted as presented in the source, using Angus, whether coerced or easily led.
Okay, let's move to the trial. Started August 2014, but got delayed.
Yeah, the details were so horrific, 2 jurors couldn't continue, had to get a new panel. Retrial began February 2015.
Henry's defense argued what? Mental disorders.
Yes, trying for leniency based on that. But the prosecution hammered the premeditation, the planning, the disposal, showed calculation, not just impulse.
They argued he was a danger, lacked remorse.
Absolutely. Called the crime an extreme violation of human dignity, said he deserved the maximum sentence.
And the verdict, March 20th, 2015.
Henry Chow, 31 years old then, found guilty. 2 counts of premeditated murder. Life sentence. Plus 9 more years for improper handling and dismemberment.
The judge had some strong words for him.
Very strong. Called him dangerous, a liar. Said he'd failed at everything except maybe piano, which his mother made him take. Always blamed others. His parents were victims of that blame.
Henry's reaction.
No emotion, reportedly. Just blank.
What about Angus C.?
Acquitted of the murder charges. The jury and court seemed to agree he wasn't the primary killer. Henry's word alone wasn't enough, especially with the fingerprint evidence pointing mainly to Henry.
But he was convicted of something.
Guilty of improper handling of dead bodies, sentenced to 1 year, but since he'd already been locked up for 2 years during the investigation and trial...
He was released immediately.
Right. Walked free from court.
Did Angus say anything after release?
Yes. The source includes his statement. Maintained he wasn't a killer. Said his mother taught him never to harm anyone. regretted being manipulated, but insisted he only helped with disposal out of fear for his own mother.
This whole story, just devastating. And the source leaves some things unanswered, like the cooked meat.
Never confirmed if anyone actually consumed it. Henry, Angus, anyone. Just left hanging there. Horrifically.
And that point about the char siu, Cantonese saying.
Yeah, where parents might scold a kid saying they're better off becoming char siu. The source raises it as speculation. Did Henry recall this? Was it some kind of final, twisted act of symbolism? We just don't know. It adds another disturbing layer, though.
Looking back at the whole case, as presented in this source, what's the takeaway?
It's a grim look at potential family breakdowns, isn't it? And the catastrophic importance of addressing deep psychological issues. Henry's inability or refusal to take responsibility, letting grievances fester. It led somewhere unimaginable.
Such a stark contrast to the potential people thought he had.
Absolutely, and it forces you to grapple with some tough questions, doesn't it? You know, for you listening, how do you even begin to differentiate between a genuine psychological collapse and just calculated evil?
And when you have these conflicting stories, Henry blaming Angus, Angus claiming fear, manipulation, how close can we ever really get to the absolute truth of who did exactly what and why? It's profoundly unsettling.
It really is.
Well, thank you for joining us for this very difficult deep dive into this source material. We know it was heavy.
We hope exploring these complex stories, even the darkest ones, prompts further thought.
Yeah, encourages that deeper understanding. Until next time on The Deep Dive.